You are listening to MSP 1337. I'm your host, Chris Johnson, and I'd like to thank you for joining us today. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our sponsor, MSP-Ignite. MSP-Ignite offers a peer group experience that is unique to managed service providers in the technology industry. If you are serious about implementing a model for success through sharing and collaboration of best practices, this is the best way to do it. Head on over to msp-ignite.com to get more information. All right, on to the show. Welcome everybody to episode 2 of MSP 1337. I'm joined today by Charles Love of Showtech Solutions. Welcome, Charles.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you letting me be here today.
All right, so I'm going to just jump right into it. I'm really excited about this episode because for those that have listened to episode 1, we talked about what does it mean to survive a breach, to have a ransomware cripple your business. And what may have been a little unclear, or maybe we didn't give enough energy into discussing what happens or how it happened per se, phishing people is probably the most common way that you and I are all potentially breached. So today, Charles and I are going to talk through how as MSPs, we should be really proactively training and educating our staff as well as our clients. So Charles, this is like just a kicking off point. We've talked about this numerous times. As our audience is listening to this, could you just kind of give an overview of your thoughts on what does it mean to do phishing simulation with your employees and your clients?
So it's kind of like the new world order, right? Email has become the latest, favorite threat avenue for everybody to take. All I have to do is buy a domain for $5, make a cool web page, send out 10,000 emails, and I could potentially make $1 million. Right?
So social engineering without actually ever getting on the phone and talking to anybody.
For sure. Like I could make a 6-figure income within 24 hours just by paying $10 to a web company and throwing up a web page. Right? Because and this stuff is happening. People are getting phished. Bad guys and bad girls are sending things out to the employees and the customers and all these things. It's something people really take for granted. Like, oh, it's just an email. If I click a link, my antivirus or whatever will probably save me. Right?
Well, I guess that raises a really important question. When we talk about phishing from the get-go, and we'll assume that phishing implies that you're doing this via email. I suppose there's some other ways you could do it, Twitter or some other places that you're getting someone to click on a link. The malicious intent behind it doesn't necessarily mean some payload's going to get dropped into the computer, right? This isn't necessarily malware or any sort of bad threat software getting installed on your endpoint. It's what does it create in the desire to do by the person who's been phished.
Correct. And a lot of people think a phishing attack is like a virus. Like I was trying to think back to this the other day. I don't think I've cleaned a air quotes virus in many, many, many years.
Sure.
Right? I'm cleaning annoyances. I'm cleaning, Microsoft supported wants you to call them, right?
Right.
I'm cleaning all these things and fixing stuff like that, but no more viruses. It's the new way is to collect data, sit on it, and take an action later.
Or even convince me to take action later that may not involve the computer at all.
Yeah, so like in last week's episode, you guys were talking about how they got in the system and just kind of took the weekend off. Right? So even the threat actors are taking the weekend off just to kind of wait to kind of see what they can get, and then Monday morning they just pull the ripcord and away it goes.
Right. So, I mean, obviously we can talk about all of the things that happen and why phishing is so prevalent, the 6-figure income. So rather than dwell on we know this is happening and know it's going to happen, we've all got a client, a colleague, someone that's been a victim of this, probably even a family member that's at least fallen victim to one that came over the telephone at some point in the day. Let's talk a little bit about why you do these phishing simulations and what your goals are in trying to, I mean, honestly, all we're trying to do at this point is educate the individual to not make these mistakes going forward.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. So let's say I roll out a new product at the office. Nobody will ever click on the link, right? Because they all think Charles is trying to get me again,
Right.
right? It's just what happens. I have to go and tell everybody, hey, you're getting an email from Bamboo HR or whatever. It's okay. It's not me trying to get you, right? Because I want, you know, I want my team to see and know what these things look like so that when they talk to customers, they can go, oh yeah, let me tell you, I've seen this happen, I've seen that happen.
Right. I think along those lines, what drives me nuts is there's so many vendors out there now that are offering this phishing campaign tool set to help us, phish our employees and our clients. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in using some of these tools that allow for a real education that's healthy as opposed to this fear factor that says, oh man, Charles is phishing us again. Don't click on those links. Don't fall victim to it. Because the reality is now, if that's truly the mindset, then it's going to be when it comes from, say, Chris Johnson and not Charles Love. They're like, oh, this isn't Charles's email. We can totally click on this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. So I have two main platforms that I use. Okay, one that I do custom work on, and then one I just have, every couple weeks they make a new template and I send that template out. Um, I am not a scheduled kind of I will not set up a campaign that says, hey, send this every month because people get used to it,
Right.
right? They know if I've taught them well and they mouse over the link, they can kind of figure out, why do all the phishing attempts only have a website that's like 4 characters long or whatever,
Right.
right? Certain people, like the top 1%, are very aware of that, but not
Mhm.
everybody is, right? So the big one that I use, it's twofold. Uh, have they click the link? Which, aha, I got you, but it didn't really get you because you just clicked the link. What I'm really concerned about is, did you fall for it? Because clicking a link doesn't mean Charles runs to you and hits your hand, right? Let go of your mouse. Because you got a million things going on. A book fell, you hit enter, whatever, you click the link by accident, who knows? But it's when you go to that GoDaddy site and it is very clearly not GoDaddy, or I'll use Microsoft. When you go to a Dropbox link to log into Microsoft, there's like 1,000 things that go off that this isn't right.
Sure.
It's when you give somebody your password, right? It's when you try to log in that says, hey, Microsoft has held emails for you. Man, Microsoft is awesome. Thanks for
Right.
telling me. Microsoft will never tell you, right? They'll never call you. They will never tell you. They will just bounce your mail,
So,
right?
so just to recap a little bit right there. So what you're saying is you have a plan. When you're going to do phishing simulation, it's really important to have a plan around what is your outcome or the goal for that. But at the same time, you don't want this to be like it's on a predictable schedule where, every Monday or whatever this timeline is, that it becomes something that's like second, just it's there. And so, it's, hey, it's Thursday. Don't park on the east side of the street on a Thursday because that's when they do cleaning and you get a ticket.
Absolutely. I purposely don't put things on a schedule. Like, I'll get to it when I get to it. I have an idea of when I want to do things. Don't get me wrong, right? Some customers, the larger ones, I'll rest it for about 4 to 6 weeks, and then I will send the phishing out over. It's not like, have you ever heard of the was it the mole syndrome, where uh you send an email to everybody and then the heads start popping up from the cubes? Hey, did you get
Oh
that?
yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
um Prairie dog, I guess,
Yep.
whatever. uh
Whack-a-mole.
yeah, the whack-a-mole. So the way I do it is I say, all right, send this out at random intervals over the next 5 days between the hours of 8 and 2. And what it'll do is it'll chunk them out to random people, not A through Z, but it'll just go randomized so that it doesn't create the whack-a-mole, right?
So
Hey, did you get this weird thing today?
so why between 8 and 2? What's special about that time window?
Typically working hours, right? A lot of bulk mail likes to go out after hours.
Because I'll be
And
honest, I wish I had that work schedule.
yeah, that would be nice. It's just what I pick because
Sure.
that's when
You,
I'm the most
you know you're
efficient, I guess.
capturing them inside of a work schedule for the most part. So like they're either catching this when they first come into the office, or it's getting near mid-afternoon when they're getting ready to. Well, maybe it would have been like when they went to lunch, or feasibly before they leave at the end of the day, but not in the middle of the night.
Yes. And I will tell you, it's not all about the pre-canned stuff. Sometimes you just have to get a little crafty,
Hmm.
right? So I give you a funny story. Um, Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Obviously, you know who they are.
Yep.
All right. So, you know, big thing down here in Florida because snow. Every, everybody wants to go sit at the lightning place and sit in air conditioning and watch a show. It's just what we do.
Of course.
So I waited about a week for Trans-Siberian Orchestra to leave Tampa. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I went, and the invite that I got from Ticketmaster, I did everything I teach against. I had 6 different fonts. I had typos. So it's called Amalie Arena now, right? I called it the Ice Palace, which is the super duper old name, and I kept referring to it as the Ice Palace. And like in the address, I think I wrote the hockey guys or something. Like I did all these kind of crazy things.
So you're intentionally making this phishing email easy to spot that it is fake.
Yes. And not a single person called me out on like, oh my God, this is like all the things are wrong. Of course, when I show other IT folks, they're like, oh my God, that's hysterical. Right.
Right.
But so what I did is I waited until they're like in Texas or something. And then I go, hey, customer name, comma. That's what I did. I literally wrote customer name. You're invited to an employee only thing. It's a gift just for you. I did put the company name in there. Okay. So it's like, special gift just for you. They're coming back, or no, it's a one night only just for your company and only your company. Very intimate. Click here to get your links.
Wow.
Right. So the amount of email notifications I got, I sent it out to about 15 customers, a couple hundred users. And within the first hour, I think I had 65 notifications.
Wow.
Right. Because everybody wants to go and go see that. I mean, that'd be awesome. But because I had their customer name and things like that, a lot of people fell for it. It was really good for me because I can go back to those customers. So a lot of times we'll do in-person training.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll refer to this and I'll actually show what I did and explain why it's a bad thing. To this day, I'll get on the phone with a customer who has fallen for it, and I swear they have an axe to grind with me over it.
Why?
Right?
Why would they have an axe to grind?
Because they didn't get their tickets.
Man.
They clicked the link because they thought they were getting tickets. They were all excited. They probably called the spouse. Oh my God, guess what? We're
Yeah.
going.
They're like totally in the doghouse for the next 12 months because
Yes.
cool, whatever it was, cruise on the bay didn't happen.
Didn't happen, and people were mad. They were legit mad at me, but it was great, and it really got the point home because think about it. Everybody is going to, well, at least with our customers, we're moving a lot of people to SharePoint. We're moving a lot of people to OneDrive. When you say nobody cares if my Office 365 password gets compromised.
Sure.
Right? Well, yeah, they do because it touches SharePoint now.
Well,
they could log into Teams.
So you're making me think about though the flip side of this. So I regularly will so I had this happen a couple of years ago. I was on LinkedIn and there was a link that said, "Hey, for the first 50 demos, we're giving away a pair of Beats wireless noise canceling headphones." I was like, "Click. I want noise canceling headphones." And guess what?
Couldn't click it fast enough.
I couldn't. So I was right on top of that, man. And you know what? I still use those headphones today. I have a very nice pair of Beats over-ear headphones. I have in the last year and a half probably collected close to $500 in Amazon or Starbucks gift cards from filling out questionnaires or surveys. And so when I talk to other people about it, they're like, "Oh, I would never do that because it's probably it's probably a scam. You know, they're probably trying to, get me to do something stupid." And so I listened to what you just said, and I'm talking about emails or posts on legitimate sites that are easy to look at and go, "Wow, InfoSec Institute," or some of these things that you're looking at, and they even have the shortened links, right? Like they're not necessarily the full domain spelled out.
Yep.
And we're afraid to click on those. But then you describe what you just did of it's got spelling errors. We forgot to swap out the template customer name database. Obviously didn't, autofill or
Yep.
mail merge the templates. I could tackle as many as opportunities as I could. And yet we click on those. So what is it from a mental state that we all have, right? This is not my employees are going to be, I'm going to be really mad at them because I know they're going to make mistakes and I never make mistakes. Where does this where do we go from here? Because I feel like if we're talking to our audience and trying to give them a good takeaway from why we're talking so passionately about phishing and why we do this to our customers and to our employees, how do we shift the mindset to say, hey, it's not a don't ever click on a link in an email. It's use some due diligence, look at this email, look at the article, look at whatever it might be, and use the following checklist before you click, just to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of.
Well, it all goes back to, like on my email, I have that think before you click thing, right? Everybody's in a hurry. They just want to, there's an email, they want to handle it. Okay. I'll give you another kind of funny email. Went to a customer. Hey, your bill is, can I get a payment status on this? That's all it said. Can I get a payment status on this? And there was a link, right? So that person sent it to somebody else and said, hey, can you get this link to work? And he said, no, something's going on. They sent it to another person. I kid you not, this one email went to 5 people. And then finally they forwarded the ticket to me and they said, hey, can you disable your security suite? And I'm like, why? Well, we can't get to this invoice. I'm like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, look. And they sent me a screenshot of the pop-up saying, this is bad, right? So I said, do you even know who this is? No. So have you ever received a bill from them in the past? No. So why are we clicking it? Guy's like, I don't know, because he's busy, right?
Right.
An email has come in. I want to click it and handle it. Done. Move on with life.
Right. It's the mentality like we all have as MSPs of, if I've got 10 tickets and I can end my day with 2 tickets, then I've had a better day than somebody else who still has the 10 tickets plus 10 more.
Yeah, it's like the number one common thing. Scan from your printer, right? Do you have a sharp scanner that sends you emails? No. Then why are you trying to open the PDF it sent you?
Right.
Right.
So you're partially, part of this is less about the problems of what the content is, and part of this is about, as we work with our clients, to say, hey, make sure that when you set up your copier or these other scanning devices, that it's not generic, that it's not the Sharp or Ricoh and it's sending something through, because we're setting ourselves up to fail when we do get one that's not legitimate, or vice versa.
Yeah, and the number one threat vector is Microsoft. Right. And just getting people to click links. Teams, everyone's using Teams.
Right.
So the one that we're seeing a lot of right now is, you've gotten a Teams voicemail.
Nice.
I've taken a couple of customer calls. Hey, thanks for turning on the phone service for us. I was like, but you have literally a landline with the red and green wires. What are you talking about?
With the cassette.
Yeah, you have a little thing you plug it to the wall, like the little mini network cable.
Right.
And you don't have Teams phones. Oh, so maybe the thing I got was bad. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Right. And when you mouse over it, it's another one of these goofy Dropbox links. I'm not bagging on Dropbox. It's just that's another.
Pick your poison, right? Dropbox, Box,
Yeah.
you name it, that's got the ability to do cloud storage without having any trace to who it might be that owns that folder.
Yeah, and so another thing I tell a lot of people on is if you're so busy, use a password manager, right? Because it makes you think. Now, the other thing, I got a call from somebody. She was like, Charles, you would be so proud of me. I put a password manager in. Now I'm using it. It's awesome. And I said, great. Did you move all your passwords to it? Yep. Did you enable the two-factor thing? Nope. Okay, so all of your passwords are now accessible by your username and password. She's like, well, maybe. I said, let me guess. You use the same password for that you do for everything else. She's like, well, duh. So it's little things like that. And the reason I bring up the password manager is if you click that link, and every other time in the universe, you go to office.com, your password manager pops up and goes, hey, would you like me to fill the password for you?
Right.
And this one time it doesn't. So are you really going to open your phone and go, I wonder what my office password is? Because chances are you don't know, right? Because you just hit fill.
Well, let's
and then
hope.
Yeah, but then you look and you go, okay, my username is this. What's my password? Are you really going to take that extra step to do it, or go, wait a minute, this should know? It's a good gut check when you use those things to go, hey, this isn't like working.
Well,
Or
I
it
think
always does.
I think so. As we're looking to basically give the action items to our audience of like, hey, these are things you can do as you're doing phishing simulations, as you're educating and training your employees and your customers. What does it look like to go the extra step to say, hey, here's some weapons that you can use to bolster or strengthen the ecosystem, not just as an MSP selling to your clients, but more of enabling them to take responsibility and better protect themselves. You bring up password managers, and I think another one would be 2FA, like you said. So let's just start with password managers for a minute. If you're going to use a password manager, the entire point of this is you need the manager because you can't remember all the passwords that you have to remember, right? If you're using a password manager and just putting passwords into password manager, it's self-defeating. All you've done is collect passwords and put them into a single place where if I breach your environment, I'm checking password manager to see if what I used will get me into everything that you already use elsewhere.
Exactly.
So whether someone's using LastPass or Anvil, or the list just goes on and on and on, right? The things that maybe we should just touch on real quick. What are some things that if I'm evaluating a password manager, what are some key things that I should look for? I bet there's at least 3 things that we should all be looking at when we use a password manager.
What is it used for 2FA?
Correct. Okay.
Right. That's going to be number one.
All right.
Number two, and this is really a company decision, is it company-owned data or user-owned data? Right? So who owns the account?
So to be more specific, in the opportunity here, are we allowing the end user to put in place their own password manager, or are we doing more of the due diligence of saying, hey, this is work related. We want to make sure that everything that you do is going into a password manager. Here it is. We're providing it to you. It is LastPass Enterprise or whatever it might be. But for your personal stuff, don't store that in here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it has turned into like a browser. Well, I don't like Chrome. I like Firefox. Well, I don't like Firefox. I like Edge.
Right.
And then you get the outliers. I like Internet Explorer, and then I have to stop laughing, and
then we cry.
Yeah. But it just, I don't like LastPass. I like this other one, and because I don't like doing this thing. It just it's turning into a personal preference. I personally don't care as long as you have it guarded by 2FA.
So
right?
let's rewind and say, Chris, delete vendor specific products, but let's go back to, does it support 2FA?
Yep.
I'll throw one in there. Does it support the ability to do what we call Cloud Connect? Does it allow you to actually remote or connect to the application, launch the application without actually having to know the credentials when they're being pasted in or authenticating, essentially being done on the back end? Because any app that you do that with, you yet again reduce the number of passwords that you're remembering and passwords that you're sharing.
For sure. And then auditing, that'd be a big one as well.
So when you say auditing, you mean the means to go in and look at, was this using good password hygiene, frequency of login, where did the logins come from?
Correct. Like the thing that says you have eyeballed this thing 15 times in the last 20 days. You know.
Got it. So as we close up or wrap this up, I think there's 3 takeaways on, for better education on improving our posture as we fight against phishing attempts. And we'll go with 2FA, password managers that support 2FA, obviously. Is there a third one, Charles?
Specifically for a password manager, just ease of use, right? Because if it's complicated and it looks like it's built in the 20 years ago, nobody's going to use it.
Sure. Like there are some out there that definitely fall in that category. I guess my point was we've got 3 things here, right, that we're talking about. We've got number 1, everything you do should be involving 2FA, right? Especially with password authentication. We're saying number 2, use a password manager. If you're not using a password manager, at some point in some time in the future, you're either going to have a potential breach happen, or at least you're going to have those credentials get compromised because they're not complex passwords. And then number 3 is, I'm going to say, unrelated to the password part, is what's the policy or process procedure that you're abiding by either as an end user or as an employee or employer in the, what is the expectation? Like if we don't have a plan for this that's consistent, carried out amongst our own employees and our clients, then all these things that we're recommending as weapons to fight against phishing attempts is going to be, an inconsistent outcome.
Yep.
All right. Well, it has been great to have you on the show today, Charles. I really appreciate you joining us to talk about something that I think is at the center of every MSP's conversation with their clients, is to not click on those links, why you shouldn't click on those links, but more importantly, how we go about educating our employees and our clients as we go through this process of better battling those that would do harm to either ourselves or our employees. Our customers. So with that, I'd like to close out. This has been an episode of MSP 1337. Thanks for joining us.